Hello, you're very welcome to our podcast today, Unmuzzled Conversations with me, Christine, and my brother, Stuart.
Hi there.
So today's episode, we're going to be talking about dating in the 70s and the 80s and how it worked there. But a bit about our podcast. We are looking at Glasgow and Glaswegians from the 1940s up to the present day. And also talking about us as people being born and brought up in Glasgow. So put the kettle on or pour yourself a drink and spend some time with us. We're going to be with you for about an hour. And we go back in time looking at and talking about what life was like for us dating in the 70s and 80s. So I'm going to start by saying I had very little action. In those days, I was a big heavy lassie, a chunky monkey, a big munter. That is, in fact, I was just saying to Stuart that I was nearly double the weight that I am now. So now I'm just a bit more than 7.5 stone imperial. And then I was 14 stone. So as a lassie, twice the size of the woman you're looking at today. So I was kind of a very, very few dates, and big lassies never got dates in those days, I have to tell you that.
Get taken to restaurants.
Oh, no, they never get taken to restaurants. It was the last fucking thing that big lassie needs is a feed. That's the last thing we're going to do with her.
It could be an expensive night out with her.
So, I had, during my teenage years anyway, I had very, very little going on. And I was always kind of the pal. Bring big Chrissy. She's a fucking laugh. Bring her, man. She'll make the party go. So it was at every party. So when everybody was getting nipped and shagged and, it was all kind of going on, I was just kind of standing there. Getting absolutely blitzed. Not bothered a judge. Fucking who cares anyway? I don't fucking care. What's going on? Shagging me, like. I don't care. I'm alright. All that, sort of self-reassurance.
Yeah, big happy.
Big happy lassie, aye. But anyway, I did meet a guy. And, excuse me, I don't know how I found out about this very high-class thing that Cartier, the people that make those incredible watches, do. They make something called a Cartier love bracelet, and you can buy it in gold and silver. And it is the Cartier design, which I won't go into now, but if you go and Google it, they have a very specific design. So those of us who know a Cartier would know by a very quick glance, oh, that woman's got a Cartier on. That's a definite Cartier she's got on. So anyway, it's a bracelet, like a firm bracelet, so kind of a wee bit looking a bit like this, kind of a bangle actually, but quite a thick bangle like this one here, and with a hinge and not completely closed. So that sounds really odd. And the reason for that was that when you bought the bracelet, there came also, let's say you bought a white gold, not silver, white gold bracelet, then you would get a white gold screwdriver and a white gold screw. So the intention was that the man who loved you, who was giving you this bracelet, which at that time was about $5,000, I don't know what they are now, the whole sort of intention was, I love you, I'm putting this screw in this bracelet, and I'm tightening it with a white gold screwdriver. That's it. You're mine. So it's incredibly expensive for a start.
Very romantic.
And very romantic. And the guy was sober as well when he was doing it. So was I. So it's very memorable. I thought, oh, this is a fucking boy for me. This is a engagement rings. Stick that up your arse. I'm having a Cartier love bracelet. So, of course, the whole world knew Cartier love bracelet. Have you seen this? Oh, you'll not know what it is. No, it's a Cartier. Spent my whole life and then I remember being on holiday, and it kind of occurred to me, because he was a bit of a shyster, I thought, what if it isn't real? So I thought myself, I was on holiday in Spain somewhere, and I thought, you know what I'm going to do? In the water, swimming like that. With a Cartier bracelet, out the water. You never know. Just in case it all rusted or something, So, but anyway, I did find out, went to a fortune teller, as you do. Oh, she says, listen, that guy's married. And not just that, his wife was going to come after you. And not just that, he's got a kid. I says, you're fucking kidding. No. She says, I know you're not listening to me. She says, but that is actually what's going to happen here. Oh, I said, that's fucking... Well, as you know, a fortune teller only tells the truth. There's never room for doubt. No. You've paid £50 at 100% truth. If I'm going to be honest, that one was 75. So there was no question in my mind this was the absolute truth. Now, I can't remember how so I was fucking absolutely raging. Absolutely raging. I had it for maybe a month, not that long, but there was nobody in Glasgow that didn't know that I did have it. So I just made sure that everybody knew. And so I was so angry, so disappointed and humiliated as well. And I couldn't see past that. And I can't remember how I got it off me. I think maybe I actually slid it off. I could probably took half my hand off with me. I was so raging. How could he do that?
Did you not confront him?
No. No. But I'll tell you what did happen. His wife did phone me. Oh, she says, hello. She said, this is Bill's wife. Oh, my God. She says, I just want to know why you're breaking up our marriage. We've got a son and la la la. So that did happen. I mean, the woman was absolutely right. So, but that's before she phoned me. But anyway, I just took it off and I can't even remember how. I maybe found another screwdriver that was similar because I'd lost the screwdriver itself, for fuck's sake. Threw it in the bin. That's the fucking end of that. Bastard. Could you do that? Right. That's it. In the bin. And somebody said, oh, you taking it to the pawn or what you going to do? I mean, you could even get it if it's if it is white gold, and it seemed to be white gold. I mean, you could get some money for that. I'm not fucking entertained. I don't want any money for it. Of course, about 2 months later, I'm saying, I wonder if there's any chance. I was still in the bin, scratching my arse for money. But I was so angry. So the moral of that story is that for 1 month in my life, whilst I was being called the big fat lassie and bring her to the party, and she, just like a human joke machine, that there was some romance, albeit that's how it ended. So it was in the bin, gone. So maybe somebody from Glasgow Corporation got it. Because I think they used to have these magnets, didn't they, when they were putting away... This has gone back years and years ago. They probably somebody got it. But what a beautiful thing. Listen, women, if you're thinking about getting engaged, look at that as an alternative. They're probably only 10 grand now. What a beautiful thing. And what a beautiful... It's kind of ceremonious. Do you know what I mean? In Cartier... What could be better? So it was kind of spoiled a wee bit, but it was still nice. But apart from that, there were very few encounters for me. I was just a big fat lassie in the corner, absolutely blitzed. Don't ask her anything because she can't speak English now. If you're drunk, ask her because drunk people have the same language, and they'll say things like, "I know exactly what you mean." And got you. Right. So but if you are looking to try and get some sense, there's none at all. No idea. As they say in Glasgow, no idea if it's New Year or New York. Don't know what's going on. So that was a wee bit about my life then. But you were telling me, Stuart, how that you thought, this is of course before you would be married as well, that there was agencies in dating, and we were also talking here about singles nights that we thought might have been going on in hotels.
Right. I met my first wife when I was 18. I was
really?
married not that long after it. Okay. So I really, fucking dating is not something I knew anything about as an adult. Yeah. But for 2 years we got divorced, and then for 2 years I was single.
Yeah.
And here, this pal of mine, Rob McPherson, who was also divorced, he was determined to go to things like singles nights, and I really didn't want to go. And I've got to say, my impression before I went turned out to be exactly right. And
tell us what it was like. Was it like dancing?
It was just a dance. It was just like an old-fashioned disco.
Aye.
And this would be the what was it, early mid-90s or something like that.
And as late as that?
Aye. And it was really strange. There was guys, middle-aged guys, who still had the suits they had when they were 18. Like
that's creepy.
Mod suits. You know?
Sounds like a horror show, the Rocky Horror Show.
It was fucking strange. With jackets that had 4 buttons and things like that.
No.
But anyway, so we went, and it was at least 3, the ratio was 3 to 1 for men. There was at least three times as many men as there was women
Oh,
there.
really? I thought it was going to be the reverse, actually.
No, it wasn't.
Oh,
And a lot of the women, they all walked about as if they were Marilyn Monroe, and they really weren't. And there was a kind of bad there was no sleazy.
Was
but
it not a kind of desperation thing?
Christine, you took the words out of my mouth.
Yeah,
It really,
I think I might have been at
like
one.
That.
Yeah.
It seemed like that to me. And I thought,
You seem to have adjusted quite well from it, Stuart. No permanent mental scarring.
So Rab's eyeing up on these women. I'm going, Rab, I mean, even competing for them, I wouldn't do it, But,
Whole setup seems wrong, actually, doesn't it? The whole setup.
I mean, so maybe some people met their wives there or whatever and they were happy, who knows? But I did not like it. I just did not like it at all. So we had one pint and he says, oh, we'll have another pint, I went, okay. So he's kind of sniffing about and trying to move in, and some of the women getting absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
And Rab, I didn't have any part, I couldn't speak to women around. So he could speak quite well because his
He was
job.
a taxi driver, wasn't he? So
he had
was
been a
used
taxi,
to
then
talking.
he'd run a pub, so he was used to
right.
speak. Early conversations, he was really good at that. But he was getting absolutely nowhere as well. I think the women, I think they were all waiting for Aristotle and Assis or somebody to come in. That's the sites were quite high financially wise. So
and a Glasgow singles night.
The funny thing of the night was, right, I was really fed up, and I said, look, Rabbit, I feel like I'm spoiling this for you. He goes, no, it's okay. He says, it was a mistake. It was a mistake. And I says, but this is the funny part of the night. So it was quite desperate. A lot of men, I don't know whether they were just desperate to get a hold of somebody, get a girlfriend or something,
So they were desperate for their hole. Let's be honest about it. You're just skirting about that.
I was into the toilet before we were leaving, right? And I noticed there's a condom machine there, right? So I get some money and I stuck money in it and I pulled it. I went, there were quite a lot of guys in it. I went, cracked it. Took it out and put it in my pocket and walked out. I've still got them.
Oh, you can imagine the green eyes following you.
I make fun of being ridiculous and doing ridiculous things, but that was an absolute classic. And I never went back again. I never went back. I'm sure I didn't either, because it really wasn't the way to do it.
I think I was at one, and I think I said to you earlier, it was in the Normandy Hotel. I might be wrong, but I think that's where it was. And as you rightly say, it was a big, big function room there. So you needed a lot of people to make that feel right. And there just wasn't a lot of people. But I just always thought there's a real air of desperation here. And much as I'm a big fat lassie, I don't want to put myself in this group of people. I don't want to be fat and desperate. So I'll just stick with being fat and drunk. That'll do me fine. I don't want to be part of this. There just was a whole vibe of, they just all felt wrong. It felt so unnatural, and I think if I can remember right, nothing really happened till like maybe the second last two dances, when everybody was absolutely bluttered. You know what I mean? And everybody's got that confidence. Hi, Sue. And of course nobody can understand you at that point. All right, lasses. You know that. So it just felt really, really wrong.
The only other experience I had was something like it was again the same guy, Rab. He told me that after he had done it, he had signed me up for a dating agency.
Did he ever meet anybody in that, Stuart?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
But he actually, and he got the replies in, and he sifted through the replies, right? And he actually people wrote you letters and things, and he gave me these two letters. And one of them, he says, and I checked out who they were, and the reason he took them was because I was living in Lennox at the time, and I think both women lived in Kirkentulloch or roundabout, which wasn't that far away. He says, I'm thinking about the travelling,
Oh, very practical.
And this one, he says, I think
practical.
this one's got a few quid. All right. So I meet, and I can't remember why, but we've met up in the McDonald Hotel away out in the south side. I don't know why that was, but that's where we met. And so anywhere I ever went, especially when I was young, I was always immaculate. I was in a suit.
Yeah.
My shoes would
You
be
still
like
are, Stuart.
my shoes would be like glass. You could cut cheese with the creases in my trousers.
Aye.
White shirt, collar tight, looking immaculate. That's as good as I can look. This is the best I can do. So I'm looking glossy, right? So I'm sitting down and I'm waiting. I'm 10 minutes early. I sit and this lassie comes in. I remember her walking in, and her hair wasn't brushed. Her hair looked a mess. But she was wearing an old woolly polo neck and a big long coat with kind of old jeans and scabby shoes.
Made an effort.
Scabby shoes. And that's exactly what I thought. I thought, fuck.
Oh, no.
What is this about,
Aye.
So, but she was quite nice and she was talking about, I felt kind of insulted that you would turn up.
Even
like
make
that.
an effort, really.
Whether she thought this would be a tester on somebody, but didn't work in me, and I was maybe she did the right thing. She would say, well, what do you do? And I told her what I did, where I worked, where I lived.
You were honest
I had
as
nothing
well.
to hide.
Yeah.
She wouldn't. I mean,
Oh,
I
really?
didn't know that I pressed it, but I just said, where do you work? Well, can I tell you? Where is it you live? Oh, can I? Oh, fair enough. And I says, and she says to me, you got a family? I says, yeah, well, I'm divorced. I've got 3 kids and I've got 2 of them at home and I look after them during the week and things like that. She goes, well, that's fair. I says, what about you? She says, I've got this son. I went, all right. I says, fuck, he's a genius. I went,
Oh, no.
I says, right.
Warning signs are happening.
It worse and worse. I said, what age is he? I think he's 22. I went, oh, right. And what does he? Oh, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't work. I said, so how's that? She says, it's because he kind of just moves from house to house. He's really so loved and he gives off such a great vibe that people just want to have them in their home.
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking, well, here's somebody who doesn't. You know? And I said, what's his name? And I can't remember. And it was some
Rupert or something?
No, it was a name. There was a character in that film, The Last of the Mohicans, and his name was Magwamp. Magwamp. He was a total bastard.
I
He was a
remember
whole
him. I
bastard.
remember
It was
him.
a name quite like that. I says, what does that mean? She says, oh, it's an Iroquois name, and it means beloved and sacred child.
Oh, my God.
And I says, did you go to college? Well, he went, but it just wasn't for him. And I went, oh, fuck, you know.
Oh,
so
my
that kind of,
goodness.
I mean, anybody who has that kind of judgment on the world and the rest of it, she dressed. And she was very nice, I've got to say. She's a very nice person. But that, to me, I just pulled the plug on this.
So glad you asked about the son, Stuart.
Well, I think
You
she
know,
just
because
come
that
up with
was
it.
like
You know,
she's probably dead proud of him. Probably busting to talk about him.
Just absolutely beaming talking about him. So that didn't go far either. So that was it. And I think, I don't know if I must have met the other woman. This is like 30 years ago. And I think I met the other woman and she was nice as well. But again, very understated in that, like deliberately dressing down. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's a thing that people did then. Maybe it was just they didn't want to appear too flashy or too sexy or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, they achieved it.
Yeah.
You know, so
and was she not worth?
No. She was again quite nice, but nothing there. I just felt that if I made the effort, why did somebody else not make the effort? I know maybe it's a bit superficial of me, but that's what I thought. So I never pursued that. Well, I've got to. The end of that story is quite strange because no, that long after that, I met Geraldine, who became my second wife, and they were going, you know, for quite a wee while, and then we get married. But I phoned them up and I said, look, I'm with somebody now. So will you stop? They actually ran things. I never went to them.
Events and
they
things.
ran quite a lot of events, maybe one a month or something, big communal events, but I never went to them. But they kept sending me letters. And the only way I could get out of this was to phone them up and say I was somebody else and that I had died.
Oh, my God.
This is to let you know, this is on behalf of the late Stuart McCormack, one of your members or clients, whatever it was. And he went, oh, what is it? He's dead. So if you could, you know, there's no point in sending letters. Oh, right, thanks for that. But that was a way to get out, because I must have phoned them at least 3 times and maybe wrote them a couple of letters over about 6 months, and they still kept sending me the stuff. You know, and obviously it looks a bit suspicious. And if you're going with somebody and they're saying, why are you getting letters?
Exactly.
You said you phoned them.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the end of basically my romantic steps.
This year's is slightly more romantic than mine, because I'm going to tell you the story about when I was later in life, when I had a great figure and I was going to the gym all the time and running about with gangsters when I was working in a hotel in Glasgow. And I still never had room for a romance in my life. It's quite hard person and just working all the time and bringing up my son, and I just didn't have room, and I wasn't really making any effort. You know, I was one of these people where I thought I had 2 days off and then 3 people phoned in sick and I was brought into work. So there just didn't seem to be any time, because that for me would take a lot of time to get to know somebody, etc. So anyway, I used to meet these guys at work every day. I would go in and they say, oh, come on over here and have a wee chat. What are you up to anyway, Christine? And are you married? I said, no, I'm single. So through the weeks and the months, we kind of got to know each other. And there was one of the younger guys said, Christine, I said, do you fancy going for lunch someday? Oh, I said, listen, that'd be lovely. He says, I was thinking of the Regano. Oh, I says, fucking absolutely. I says, oh yeah, that would be very nice. Thank you very much. So we're on our way to the Regano. And I said, this is fucking life for me. In the Regano at lunchtime, no even a dinner. this is the life for me, the big steak and everything, and all the modum. You know, the Glasgow waiters, they don't say madam, say modum, and with the waiter thing over your arm and all that. It was very posh, and it was the place to be if you had money, the Regano. And he says, Christian, I've actually asked you here because I had something to ask you. I said, all right. Now, what he was about to say was the furthest thing in my mind. He said, well, I was listening to what you were saying, how you're single and that, and thinking how you're probably not getting any action. So, do you want me to shag you? I could. Listen, no bother for me, Christine. I have to say, you're a wee bit older than the usual bird I would go for. But you're nice, you get a nice wee body and that, you know, I think. I mean, you'll be safe. You'll be safe as well. Oh, he says, my pals had a look at you as well. He said he would pump you if you wanted a threesome. So there's options, Christine. There's options for you.
Silver tongue devil, eh?
And I think in my life, I've told that story before in my other podcast, but I think in my life that there's very few times I've really had nothing to say. And I think he says, you don't need to answer now.
Think about
Take your time and think about it. I said, listen, I will. You know what I mean? When you just think, you're so caught on the hop, it's the last thing that they've all been sitting talking about. You know what I mean? But to you, we're just having a coffee. So that is the kind of romance that there has been in my life. So I don't have much to contribute, but I was kind of doing a wee bit of research to look at how things actually were in terms of how things played out in those days by comparison to now. And it was what the research was telling me was that men played the principal role in the relationship as it developed. And what that meant to me was that women seemed to wait to be asked to go out.
Right. Do they still do that? No.
No. So it was always like in a man-driven thing. Uh-huh. So they would phone you, they would ask you for their phone number. And the thought of phoning them, for me, I don't mean me personally because I never had any dates, but for other people talking to other women, I later, when I'd managed to get a great figure in the gym all the time, and that's the offer I got. But it seemed to me that women were kind of like almost passive in it. You were waiting for a man to come to you, to say to you, would you like to go out? And then to say to you, give me your number and all that kind of thing. And I also remember how tricky it could be that if they said, listen, I'll phone you at Monday night at 7:00. Is that all right? That's fine. Oh, okay. You try to be quite nonchalant. Well, no me, but the people that were getting asked. All right, okay. Of course, fucking at 7:00, your mom was on the phone to her pal. I know, Joan, I know. Don't tell me. I've got something out and you're going, oh, fuck. So 7:00, 7:30, and you're going like that to your mom to get off the phone. So those were the tricky things, you know, and then you never actually knew if the guy had phoned or not. Because 7:00 had come and gone, because those were the days of landline phones.
There was no way of knowing if anybody ever phoned you when your phone was engaged.
Exactly, so he could say to you, so you could have missed a whole day. He could have thought that you had taken the phone off the hook. And you didn't want the phone call. So it needed to be somebody that was really quite keen to then kind of phone you back, you know. So that would be lost. And then the next time you meet them, they might say, that was fucking nice taking your phone. I was waiting for you. I thought you'd phone after. But because if you didn't, that was this kind of a circumstance. And of course, the other thing was that with landlines that were used for the whole family, nobody having an individual phone, there was no privacy.
No.
So if ever you were in the phone, my mother would be going by like that. And you'd go, fuck. You're trying to shoo her away. And I know. So she would be zooming past, and they were always in the hall, remember, with a telephone table, and a telephone stool.
I think there was a mirror there as well, so you look good. You could look good while you talk to somebody.
And you also was a little pen and a little pad to make sure that you get any notes down that were required. So it could be tricky. It could be tricky. Even getting the first phone call done could be a real tricky thing.
Well, I was just going to throw in holiday romances.
Oh, yeah.
I've been involved in 2 holiday romances in my life. And the first one, I was just a teenager. I was just a boy, about 17 or something. And it was, I met this girl on holiday, and it was the first time I think I was ever, like, and as a teenager, totally in love with somebody, right?
Oh.
And I'd only
So
met
what
her-
age? About 17?
17. And
That's
I was,
nice.
it was only like a week. I was spent, with her in the vicinity. And I just came back. And in those days, well, most of the factories, certainly the print factories, closed down at the Glasgow Fair, so everybody was off at the same time.
Yeah.
So I met this girl, and I was just besotted with her. I thought she was the most beautiful.
Where were you? Where did you
It was
meet
in
on holiday?
Tenerife. I met her. She was English, aye. She was English. She and her family came there to just for a couple of weeks, and I met her after a couple of days. So maybe going on for 2 weeks or something. I was with her there. So we comes back, and we go back at work in the first Monday after. How you getting on? Tons of apprentices. I've said this before. Maybe 20 apprentices. There was more than 20 apprentices between the printers and the comps, but the kind of younger ones, our ages, there's maybe about
like
20.
First year ones.
First to third year. It would be a third year by this time. So they'll be talking to me, saying, "How'd you go in, Stuart?" I says, "Oh, I met this lassie." "Oh, did you?" I said, "The most beautiful thing you've ever seen." I go, "Is that right? Aye. Any photos?" I went, "Fucking 2 spools." Fucking big money.
People like Cam won't even know what we're talking about with spills.
They're in Boots as they speak.
In Boots, of course.
Come back on Saturday, straight into Boots. They're in. I'll get them in at the weekend. Will you bring them in next week? Fucking right, I will. You'll not believe this, lassie. So I brings her in. So there's a word going to appear in this story that it was very 1960s. It was a very much a backhanded compliment. It wasn't a fucking compliment at all, but it was thrown as a
comment.
A kind of compliment when nothing else was happening. So anyway, so then one next Monday, you got the photograph, Stuart. Got the picture. You're no believer. So lunchtime comes, and we're all sitting about in this big, huge table. People used to play cards and that at the table. So there's about maybe 20 guys there. So I'm getting, and I've got, what would you get in a spool? About 16 photographs.
Yeah,
So you've got about 30 photographs, and I'm passing them out. I'm check this out, boys. Yeah, check this out. Feast your eyes. They're all looking at me like that. And I'm not hearing any compliments.
No, complete silence.
No, and the silence is getting louder and louder and louder. Going, what's happening here? These fuckers are blind. So I'm looking at it, and I thought, oh God, please don't let anybody say it. Please don't let anybody say it. But some bastard did. One of the guys says, "I bet she's got a great personality."
Oh, no.
Bastards! Give me the fucking photographs back. So I'm taking all the photographs. So I'm getting the photograph, and I'm standing up to walk away. And one of the guys says, but she's got great legs. I says, too fucking late. You're all a bunch of bastards. And I stomped off.
16-year-old. Oh,
Fuck,
you must have been humiliated
fucking
today.
mortified.
You see, the eyes of love, Stuart, isn't it? It's the eyes of love.
What I have to throw in as well is that when after I was divorced from my first wife, I was like a single parent most of the time for 2 years. Yeah. And then I met Geraldine, my wife, now Geraldine, and I met her when she was driving a taxi. Yeah. It was a Saturday one. I was working for this print company, and we had done a reporting accounts for Scottish Power. And on the Saturday morning, we were to go out. I was to go out because I had worked on it. I had completed it, and I had to give to go out maybe 5 of the directors, and they were all to get proofs of it, and they were to study it over the weekend, bring it back on Monday. So I'm all glossed up again. Wasn't normally on a Saturday. I was all glossed up to go to these people's houses. And when we got to their houses, they were all in their gardening gear. They all lived in big houses. And funny enough, it was around about Straven. I don't know why that would be. Or around about there. So anyway, I just booked Geraldine for a taxi, and here she comes. She's talking away. She can talk, so we're talking away. She's a very good talker. So we're talking away for about 2 hours. And I had, she's asked me, are you single? And I said, no. And I told her about the story. She goes, oh, that's fine. And I said, well, I'll maybe ask her out sometime. So delivered all the stuff, went back, said cheerio, gave her the money. And then I thought, well, later, a couple of weeks, I'm going to try and contact her. I really liked her. So I tried to contact her, but I couldn't get hold of her at all. And I even knew her cab number. Her cab number was Silver 32. I can still remember that. Yeah. But I couldn't get hold of her, so I said, well, it's not going to happen. But here, about 18 months later, when I was in Spain with the kids, I met up with her again. She didn't recognise me. I recognised her, but she didn't recognise me. And we got talking away, and we just kind of met up and we just got together.
It was meant to be then,
So
wasn't it?
that was a holiday romance that went well,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to the other one. I mean, it went well, and as it did, but it was a real heartbreaker. Oh, these bastards.
Oh.
But that was what you said to somebody that wasn't very nice looking. I bet she's got a great personality.
Of course, I can't relate to that 'cause I don't have any of these. I don't have any of these stories whatsoever. Mine's are all quite horrible ones, I think. The other thing I was thinking about was how different it was to meet people in those days, because nowadays a lot of people, in fact, I think most people, Camel know, meet online. And, what was it, Match.com that started in 1995, and from there on in, it was something a bit to be frowned upon. But I knew two people that were really good, professional, really nice people who both met their husbands there. Because in the beginning it had quite a bad press and people were quite sceptical and cautious about it. But of course, as time has evolved now, what are we, like 20 years later, it's very much the place
30,
to 30 years later.
Nearly,
it is.
nearly
That's
30
very
years.
true.
Aye.
Absolutely. You're right. Thank you. So I was just sort of thinking about how back in those days, how people did meet each other, and it tended to be more face-to-face meetings. Things like social things, even like weddings, which I suppose still happens now. And a lot of times it was people meeting each other at work and people meeting each other in pubs. And things like that as well. I would have said that probably most people met each other at the dancing.
Aye.
At those times. But I was also thinking about one of the places to meet for a date. The venue for meeting would be Boots Corner, which of course doesn't exist now. Is it your favourite restaurant that's there now, Kentucky Fried Chicken? But prior to that was Boots Corner, and that was, so if you were meeting anybody, there was fucking hundreds of women all standing at Boots Corner, all waiting. And I was always early, unfortunately. But the funny thing was you would get guys, maybe about 7 o'clock would be the normal time, maybe 8 o'clock, and guys would be walking past out with their pals, or maybe me out since 5 o'clock since work.
Aye.
Yeah, does it? Or sometimes they would say things like, away you hame, you've got no chance, you've been early. All that kind of thing. You'd just stand there and say all this fucking abuse for drunk men, or some of them would say, if it doesn't turn up, I'll take you. And you think, what a fucking great... No, it's all right, thanks anyway. So you'd just stand there and say all this stuff. And I was remembering as well how relatives would say, like say my mum or her friends would say, somebody. Is your daughter still single? Oh, that's a shame.
Something wrong.
She's getting on now, though, isn't she? Is she 25? Oh, never really had a... so they must have been thinking... Aye, I know. I was just getting sober by that time. I've just beginning to find out what the world was like at that age. But they would be saying, I've got a nice pal, I've got a nice niece, or a nice nephew, or something like my mother would say. She's a career girl. She's a career girl. And so therefore when she did that, kind of shut it down. So she's obviously, over the years she took enough comments, enough kind of negative comments for people to know what it was she had to say to stop it. But people, it just seemed to be at that time though that getting married by a certain age was a very expected
thing. If you weren't
thing.
by a certain age, you were obviously odd.
Yeah.
I just thought a funny one, Christine, about being dizzied. I remember I was going with this girl from Paisley. I was about 18. It was in 1969. And I'd been going with her about 6 weeks. And I really liked her. I mean, I wasn't in love with her, but I really liked her. And everything was really quite stable. And here, one of the two was ill. So we didn't end up going out, but she phoned me. She phoned the house and had said, or her sister phoned the house and said, look, I can't even remember her name. Phoned the house and said, she can't meet you in whatever. What do you want to do? And I had said, right, okay, could you just tell her to phone me in a week if she's... But she was quite ill. I mean, it wasn't like a kid or anything. She was quite ill. I says, well, could you phone again in about a week time? And or whenever she's ill, she's well again, and she's okay to go out, that would be great.
Yes.
Right? And in the meantime, I need to remind you of a guy called Tiny Tim.
Oh,
he was a singer, a big, odd-looking guy.
Oh, he was.
He was really, really strange. And he'd quite heavy, a big heavy guy, and he had really long hair.
And he had a top hat, Stuart. He wore a top hat sometimes.
Did he? I don't remember that. But anyway, he had long hair. But he wore really conservative clothes. He used to wear a white shirt and a tie and a sports jacket.
That's
and
right.
normal trousers. So
That's
really
right.
a total contradiction.
Yes.
His look.
Strange.
Anyway, and he
Just
sang this, and he played a ukulele.
Ukulele, yes.
And
that's right,
he had one hit song called Tiptoe Through the Tulips. It was fucking bizarre. But he was a kind of, one of these enigmatic people. He came in the scene. Everybody
then he
liked him.
disappeared just
He liked
quickly,
him.
really,
He seemed to be a
didn't
nice guy. He was a fucking nutter. But he seemed very nice. Anyway, so I'm just reminding you about this guy. So we communicate again with this girl. I communicate with this girl, and I just said to her sister again. I says, look, I tell you what, rather than talk, just tell her, can we meet at the same place we met the last time? And I got it completely wrong.
Right.
I had the last time I thought we met was outside one of the Regal Cinema, something like that, and here it wasn't. Later on, I remembered it was at Paisley railway station or something. So we both went to the wrong place.
Oh dear!
So it was a Saturday night, and I'm standing at the corner of the cinema, and she was like me. She had always been quite early. She'd never been on time or late ever. So I'm at this corner, and the queue's forming round me.
Oh no!
And I'm waiting. I'm thinking, no, she'll not let me down. She'd no way she'd let me down. And there was a song out at the time called Dizzy.
Oh, no.
And I hear people going, dizzy, my head is spinning. Fucking
Really abuse you've got to take in Glasgow.
No, but I've got to say, it was quiet, but it was there. And you're all like, oh, fuck, he's been dizzy. No, okay, no. How long's he been there? Fuck,
no.
For fuck's sake. And later on, I remember guys that I went to college with, and they said they used to meet girlfriends that they weren't too sure of at bus stops.
That's a very good idea. Very good idea.
Because it didn't look too bad. Anyway, I waited for maybe 3/4 of an hour. I was a quarter of an hour early, and I waited for half an hour. And I just gritted my teeth, and I waited, and I waited. And I thought, she's obviously not coming. And I thought, I was fucking mortified. And so I gets in the bus. The bus is quite busy. It's a Saturday night. The bus is quite busy. And it was like the bench seats at the back. So I'm sitting in the bus, and it would be 8 o'clock by this time. Of course, there's a drunk guy on the bus, right? And he's fucking talking dead loud, and everybody's got their fucking heads doing.
Don't want to get picked on.
Don't want to get talked to him, man. I don't want to make fucking comment. So he looks at me and he goes, "Fuck me. It's fucking Tiny Tim."
Oh, no.
Because I was wearing a suit. I had long hair, and I had collar and a tie and all this suit. And everybody's looking around going, I've got two thoughts. One, thank fuck it's no me. And that's fucking funny. and he goes, "Tiny Tim, tiptoe through the tulips." Felt like fucking killing him. It's an old guy. I just
how
manly,
heroically,
I gritted my teeth and just waited. And he was still on the fucking bus when I got off, which was quite a long journey to Bishop Briggs, as you recall. It was a good 25 minutes. And he goes, "I've seen Tiny Tim. Oh, fucking, oh, you see him? Oh, fuck."
Actually, see, when you think about it, Stuart, you could actually do a whole podcast about humiliations with drunk people on the bus. I mean, sometimes, in the same situation as that, and as a drunk man, and especially if they come on, and sometimes they don't want to sit down and hang on to the bar. And so they're hanging onto the bar and they're having a good look at everybody in the bar. Who am I going to pick? So sometimes I would maybe have something like a wee berry or something. "Oh, fucking check her out with a berry. Stop it." And of course you're looking at that in the window. Try to get out of his gate. "Oh, she's too good for us. She's too fucking good for us." See, when you think, I mean,
you can't win in that. You can't win that.
Just on that, but it's not really to do with this, but I was thinking about that humiliation thing with drunk people. I remember when I was really super fit, and one day I was just going into the gym, and I wasn't even in a class or anything. I just was going down a stair, and boom, my tendon went. I went, just fell right down like that, and within a second, my foot was like a ball. It was like that, and I'd never been injured before, so I had to be taken up to the casualty. Now, this wasn't late at night. It was maybe 6 or 7 o'clock on a Tuesday or something like that.
It was a drunk guy.
Two guys. So I had no time to get a coat or anything. "Oh, fuck me, it's Jane Fonda. Come on, Keith, Jane, come on. Feel the bun. I had to go, and I was in such pain. I could have just grabbed the two of them and just squeezed their necks. I was so, and they went on and on and on. What have you got to do? You just got to sit there till they finally pick on somebody else. But Well, let's look at your legs then. Let's have a wee look at you. Or, you know, all that kind of thing. Oh, so there could be a whole podcast about humiliations by drunk. And I would be in it because when I was drunk, the things I would say to people, are you not going to do anything about the teeth? And try to involve people. He's brave. Coming out with his that. He's walking about like that. No, on your ears or something, you know. And people would just be like, oh, get her out of here. Just so I would be involved in it as well. I have to say that. But one of the other things I was thinking about was, I think, a first date, if you actually got past all these hurdles that we've just talked about, if you got on a first date, it was usually the cinema, wasn't it? Because you didn't need to talk.
I didn't speak. Always for me, it was the cinema.
I think it still is, to be honest, for a lot of people. Because when you're just getting to know somebody, you think, oh, can I sit in a pub for 2.5 hours? Or I could, because I would always be drunk.
I would get found out.
I would be drunk, so I would be quite fucking happy to meet you in a pub. But the other thing was that maybe after you progressed after that, it seemed to be Italian restaurants. And I'm trying to think of the ones that were quite really well known at the time. There was one down in Mitchell Lane. Do you remember that? And it had a little kind of lantern outside it. And that was really, really popular, quite expensive. But of course, in my younger days, being a big lassie, I would always have dreamed, never happened to me, but I would always have dreamed that one day somebody would take me to the Burnley Inn. Because the Burnley Inn would be my ideal place. You had the choice of steak, chicken, or duck. You know what I mean? But of course, guys took one look at me and said, well, she's not needing a feed. The last thing she needs is a feed. The best thing for her is a fucking voucher for the Weight Watchers. That's what that lassie's needing. But that would have been my dream. Did you ever go to the Burnley Inn, Stuart?
No, I've got to say, Christine, until I was a lot older than a teenager, I was always skint. Mm-hmm. Always skint. So I couldn't even justify.
I think I've been,
unless
but not
it's a special
a
occasion. I could never justify taking them out for a meal.
Because really, when you were that young, you had a mortgage almost straight away before you were 20 and things like that. So your life was a wee bit different. But I never ever was kind of taken by any guy. Obviously, I think I went for a.
You'll take a Chinese buffet.
If that had been on at that time and I had known about it,
you'd have munched right
through. I'd have been grazing all day. I would have just been in and done the full shift. I'll do the lunch and dinner shift. That's fine. Just leave me here. I'll be fine. You know. Actually, to be fair, a lot of my weight was booze. A lot of it was booze, and maybe more even than the food. But that certainly didn't help. For me as well, I think working in hospitality was a job that involved working so many antisocial hours and also quite a lot of unexpected hours where you could say, oh, I can go to such and such on Wednesday night, and then something would happen on the Wednesday at 5 o'clock, which meant that now that wasn't going to happen anymore. And I think through the years, I kind of got to the point, whether it was meeting pals or doing anything, even as I got older and I did lose weight, I just didn't make arrangements because it got to the point where, even with my son, you know, I would say, right, tomorrow's definitely going to be my day off. Let's go to the movies and this and that. And inevitably, through no fault of my own, something would happen and you would be called into work. So I think I just kind of wouldn't promise to do anything. I stopped making arrangements with people because I never seemed to follow them through, and got a bit of a reputation of people, well, don't bother asking her because she never turns up, which kind of wasn't really my fault, but just one of these things. So anything you want to mention just before we close that wee subject, Stuart?
I can't. Did you meet a guy in a pub with a beard and you sneaked out the back door or something? I'm sure you told me that.
To do what?
And you met a guy in a blind date, and it was a guy with a pipe and a beard. I'm sure it was you that told me that.
There was a guy I met, but that's not that long ago. I was living in that house in the Now, and somebody had said to me, it was one of my gay friends that said to me, you should be on that fucking Match.com. You're not that bad. I mean, give it a chance. I mean, disabled people are on it. You just go for it. And I thought, must have caught me in a bad moment. I think it was like New Year's Day or something like that, and I was feeling very alone, and people seemed to be with each other, all that kind of thing. And I met a guy who turned up, and it was nothing, of course, like the picture. Nothing. The picture, of course, was him maybe 20 years ago. So I'm kind of looking at this guy, and he comes right up because of my glasses. You'd always know it was me. And he was a guy who worked in the cleaning business, and he was just what I would call a blowhard. I don't know what the modern word is for that, but just someone that was arrogant and had a nice car. And what kind of car do you have? That kind of thing. I've got a yacht. I said, is that right? Where do you stay? Clydebank. So I just completely burst out laughing. I thought, how could anybody? That's just beyond the realms of ridiculousness to live in Clydebank. And I thought, oh no, this is no for me. So I did leave. I said, you know what? I don't think it's fair of you to waste my time and vice versa. You know, I wasn't rude. I just said, this is just nonsense. This is nonsense, and I'm just leaving now. So maybe there was another time. I don't remember, but that was my one and only opportunity to be on Match.com, and for me it was just not it. But I think anybody who has even been successful in Match.com, and I told you Tupi Lanyu met their husbands and they're still together and they're really nice people. I think you do have to meet a lot of frogs before you meet the prince. So I think it's a numbers game. I think you maybe have to meet 10 or more people before you meet the right one.
Well, I think that looking back in things, now there's obviously a risk in meeting somebody that you don't know that could have told you anything. So I think all the precautions of meeting them in a safe place and don't, if they're in any way boastful, be very, very wary. Or even talking about their possessions, be very, very wary. But the alternative I always thought for women was very, very difficult. If you're mid-20s, and most girls, as I recall, the 10 in the mid-20s at least had boyfriends. And women seem to be more sort of loyal with their boyfriends than they were with their own friends, which I always thought was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Big mistake. You get a boyfriend, you dump your pals.
It's
not a good idea.
So.
And I always say that to my own children and grandchildren and daughters. But I think other than that, it was very difficult for women to actually meet men. If people say, join a sports club, well, you might not like sports clubs or join this, join that. But if you join something like any of these agencies and they do a proper job, they properly sift out as many lunatics as they can and murderers and head cases all together. I think it's a good idea. I think
now that there's more cautionary levels involved, whereby people now
people
would
have
say
learned hopefully other people's mistakes.
And even when I was meeting that guy, and that's at least 10 years ago, maybe even more than that, it was you met for a coffee and you met in a very public space that was quite a busy space. So, and you were driving your own car, and there were certain questions, as you've mentioned earlier on, that you just wouldn't answer. They would say, if they said, where do you live? You'd either give a false address or you just say, I'd prefer not to answer that at this moment. So there's lots of ways that you can shield yourself or keep yourself fairly anonymous by not giving out information, and people will accept that now. And there used to be a thing where people would say, tell your friends where you're going. Aye. And tell your friends what time you're going at. So if they can't reach you within an hour or so, at least they know where you've gone to.
Was there no codes that somebody would?
Yes, I think they would
phone you up and you would just say, "Oh, I need to go. I'm sorry. It's it's an emergency." But
yeah. Okay, so we've exhausted that. Quite a lot of swearing in that today. That was not planned. I'm not on point today. So I think when I'm not on point, I revert back to what's easy for me, which is swearing.
The real you, Chrissy.
Exactly. I was trying to dress it up there. Thank you for dressing me down. That's exactly what I needed. So thanks, as always, for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed that today. Remember, you can find our podcasts on Spotify and YouTube. And on social media, we're on TikTok, where we're very popular, and Facebook and Instagram. So it's goodbye from me, Christine. Goodbye from Stuart.
Do you know?
And we look forward to seeing you next time.